for joining us on this special live stream event of MVC Live. I'm your host and also a faculty member at MVC. My name is Devin Klepper, and thanks for hanging out with us tonight on this webcast. We are talking about seeing your student thrive after high school graduation. And so what better panel could we possibly put together than what we have tonight? We have our high school principal, Susie Swing. We have the director of student services, Tracy Bartholomew. And then we've also got a couple of seniors with us. And because that wasn't enough, we've also got a couple of Mustang alumni with us as well. As always, I want to remind you that if questions come up, please feel free to type those into the Q&A part of the Zoom webinar form there. I believe it's down to you right on the bottom of your screen. And that will either be answered back to you via chat, or it'll be put into our doc, and we'll have some time toward the end of our session tonight to address any of those audience questions. With that, let's go ahead and move forward. And let me welcome our first guest tonight, Susie Swing, who again is our high school principal. Susie, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Devin. Happy to be here.
So listen, let's just start off with a bit of a snapshot of MVC and how learning is done at Monte Vista Christian. Can you give us a little insight into that?
Yes, I would love to. And I like to start by just talking about what's foundational to anything that we do at Monte Vista. And that is for our students to know that they have a God who created them very purposefully and intentionally. And even though we live in this messy world with some broken places, there's a Redeemer who loves them and seeks to be in relationship with them. And I can't talk about learning and education and academics without saying what is foundational to what we do and who we are. And so I want to always start there. And then I think in addition to that, of course, we want our students to be equipped for the world beyond our walls. We want them to be informed. And that means we want them to ask great questions. We want them to pursue those personal aspirations that they have. We want to support them in that. We want them to set those goals and to develop persistence and be confident as they're achieving them. So that's what we hope for the classroom. That's what we hope we're doing in equipping them within our walls.
Yeah, you mentioned ask questions, and we have what we call inquiry-based learning. And can you kind of give us a little bit of insight into that as we start our night?
Yeah, so we've partnered with the International Baccalaureate Organization, and this is an organization of member schools. And so we found that their philosophy of learning is aligned to basically what I'm talking about. And so we're excited about that partnership. And part of that is this idea of them becoming inquiring learners. And that means we want our students to ask those deep questions. So it's not just what they're learning, that's important. We want them to get that knowledge. That's that piece of them being informed. But that equipping is them developing the attributes of a learner. So are they developing as effective communicators? Are they good time managers? Are they principled decision makers? So that's what we want. That's what partnering with IB is doing. And what it's also doing is allowing our students to be part of an international community of learners, which is really exciting because they also have this opportunity for this cross-cultural experience. And so, yeah, it's a great thing. We're excited about it, and it's equipping them to be impactful. And that's what's exciting about tonight to me, to talk about post-secondary goals, because we get to talk about what we're doing here and how that propels them. It's like why I love seeing Andy and Danny and our current students here on the panel, because it's an opportunity for me to just be reminded that what we're doing is equipping our learners. We want them to be these principled, compassionate, right, ethical decision makers and communicators that go out and impact their communities. So it's exciting.
I couldn't agree more than what you've said there, Susie. I appreciate that. And I think that that's one of the things that, and we'll get a little sample of this when we talk to our current Mustangs and our Mustang alumni that are on this webcast tonight. But it's so true that I think sometimes we can get so locked in as teachers, as parents, to just make sure that our kids are getting good grades and making sure that they're getting into college. And we often kind of actually cut the whole vision short by not focusing on just really setting them up for success that doesn't necessarily equate with a letter on a transcript. With that, let me kind of pivot a little bit. Tracy Bartholomew, you are our Director of Student Services. You oversee a team of incredibly dedicated and talented guidance counselors. And so first off, if you could just give us a little bit of insight into what your role is, and then I guess, what each learner can expect as they go through the process of being a learner at MVC.
Yeah, so we have 4 guidance counselors in our office, and then we have a 6th and 7th grade counselor and an 8th grade counselor as well. But right off, as soon as they hit high school in 9th grade, we start talking about, tell me what you enjoy doing. What are your passions? What do you think you might want to do in the future? And of course, not every student knows that, but just we try to dream with them early on and get to know the student and try to plug them into things throughout high school that have to do with what they enjoy doing. And then taking it from there, we have a customized 4-year plan for each student, and just plugging in their interests, whether it's athletics or fine arts or anything that they enjoy doing. And then that 4-year plan follows them throughout the high school. So then they'll meet with their sophomore counselor and really dive deeper into like career assessment and career search. And we use an awesome college prep tool called Naviance that really gives them a lot of tools and just searching of all the careers that are out there for them related to the things that they enjoy studying. And then from there, we go right into their junior year and encourage them to have a nice long list of colleges that they're thinking about. And that's when we do a lot of the college research process. We also do that in 9th and 10th grade, but really deep dive during their junior year and expose them to as many colleges as we can. The last couple of years has been via Zoom, which has worked out great as well. We can have colleges from all over the US join us. Just getting them in touch with like admissions counselors and really helping them build relationships with different colleges. That's really our goal for the guidance counselors, is to build relationships with admissions counselors to give our students access to, just straight access to that college with any questions that they might have. And then we do a college kickstart where they spend the week with us and 3 or 4 hours a day just doing diving into the college process between their junior and senior year, starting the applications, the essays, narrowing down their list, and just talking about financial aid and everything those 4 or 5 days that we're together. So then when their senior year starts and the application, they're in full swing filling out their applications, they've had a big jump start. So those are the logistics of what we do, but there are, there's many other conversations after conversation that we have, just spending time with the students and really talking to them about all the opportunities that they have outside of high school.
Yeah, thank you for that. And, one of the things you mentioned was a program that's really tailored to their gifts, their passions, their future desires, and perhaps even fields of study. And so I guess, what does that look like if my child starts attending MVC and she thinks she wants to go into a particular field of study? What does that look like? What could I, as a parent, expect? What could my daughter expect from you and your team?
Well, let's just use STEM, for example, because that's a popular one. And it really could just be anything. We have art students and just any type of passion that they may have. But for STEM, for example, we try to expose them to as many opportunities in the community to begin with that they might have, where they could, do a fun weekend class or an online course, or we have speakers come and talk about the opportunities that they might have in that area, or, people that are in that career and come and speaking with them. And also outside of their community, like there are so many different like leadership conferences that we've done with the students through NHS and CSF, and outside of those, they don't have to be in those to participate, but we try to give them as many opportunities as they can for trips like that, or even again, like I mentioned, Zoom, like just like we're doing tonight, like it's opened up a whole new door for us the last few years of just the things we have access to. So really just trying to, that's the beauty of having a grade level counselor. So when something comes across my desk where I'm like, oh, this would be perfect for this student because I've spent time with that student and I know what their interests are and I know that they're even interested in that. So that would be one of the things, is just really, trying to connect the pieces. It's just like connecting them to all that's out there.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you said that that's just one of the pieces, because it's true. There's such an opportunity to build relationships with these learners and their families over the course of their time there. And as you just mentioned there in your final thoughts, is really developing a relationship so well that what articles or what things may speak to them, because you are a part of that journey for the duration of their time there at MVC. Let me bring in a couple of our seniors that are actually experiencing this right now. And so, Barry, welcome. Sam, welcome. And thanks for hanging out with us tonight. I don't know if we're getting you out of homework tonight or not, but if so, you're welcome. Barry, let me begin with you. When you hear Mrs. Swing and Mrs. Bartholomew talk about some of the skills that you are taught at MVC, some of the opportunities that you have at MVC, some of the guidance that you have there, I guess, first off, would you say that that's accurate of your own experience?
It is definitely accurate. So I personally believe learning is a process of self-discovery, and MVC clearly understands that learning is about the student discovering their own field of study or their own purpose. But in the process of the discovery, we often have doubts, and we need directions, we need guidance, and that's where the guidance team, the counselors, come in to help. I am a very independent learner, and also the school has provided me with a lot of opportunities. Like in the STEM area, we can have the teachers can offer us many different type of laboratory experiments, and we can also have opportunity exposed to. We can collaborate with professors that are in the local community colleges and some even colleges that are not close to the school. The teachers can help us like communicate with these professors, and we can arrange research opportunities together, which is very exciting. And about self-discovery, take college education, for example. The counselors here, they don't give you a college list. They don't help you construct a college list. They give you the tools and skills necessary for you to develop a college list by yourself. And that's very important. I think that's a very important aspect of education. Education is not about conveying knowledge. It's about conveying the skill to attain knowledge. And MVC is definitely a great institution that provides the skills necessary for students to be a successful learner.
Wow. Thank you for that, Barry. And I just want to recognize you too, because you are one of a handful of our rock star students that are here as an international boarding student. And so I'd love to know, as you're getting ready to go on to kind of the next phase after high school and after graduation in a few months, is there a particular skill that you've really seen yourself grow in over your time at MVC?
So before I came to MVC, I was a very introverted person. And during my study at MVC, I became a better communicator. I can communicate and make friends and build relationships with people way better than I could have if I haven't come to MVCS. So I'm a very strong academic student with very strong academics, but in society and the future in college, communication skills and communication is also very important. So communication is definitely one of the most important skills I've learned in MVC. And as the international students, the boarding program has provided the students with a lot of opportunities to practice communications, and we have many experience. We have been exposed to many opportunities to engage with the local community. So and communication is definitely a skill that if you send your kid to Monte Vista, then he will become or she will become a better communicator for sure.
Excellent. Thank you, Barry. Sam, let me pull you into the conversation here. Talk to us a little bit about your experience, just not only growing with some of your skills that you have shaped and forged over your time at MVC, but also just some of the process that Mrs. Bartholomew described. What are some of the things that, as you look back on your time at MVC, you've really seen yourself grow as a result of being at MVC?
I'd say that probably the two biggest skills I've come out of MVC with that will prepare me for life is communication, as is Barry mentioned. That throughout freshman year through senior year, there were always plenty of opportunities and chances where you'd maybe learn something and have to present it in a presentation form, and you would be graded not only did you learn the content, but did you communicate it in an effective way so that your audience, whatever it might be, can understand, which I think is really applicable to almost wherever you choose to go after high school. It's going to come up somewhere. And the other big skill I think I learned was time management, both what to choose to spend your time on, because the reality is you can't always do everything. If there's an after school show that has rehearsal 4 to 5 days a week and also a sport that has rehearsal at the same time, yeah, at some point you have to learn, what do I want to value my time with and do first? And also just within just what you spend your time on, how am I going to manage that time to be the most effective? So when do I get my homework done? When am I going to maybe practice lines for a show? And when am I going to prepare for a choir concert? Like, you got to plan sometimes several days or even like on your weekends and ahead on what you're going to do. And I feel like Monte Vista has really helped me grow in that and become much better at it. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great pivot point to bring in some of our Mustang alumni. And so Andy, welcome. Danny, welcome. Thank you both for taking time out of your adulting schedules to join us here tonight. Andy, Sam was just talking about organization. And when we were kind of walking through this process before the webinar started, that's something that you really felt was something you left MVC with, not only an appreciation for organization, but it's really transformed how you go about life in the career field. So Andy, let me begin with you and just give us a snapshot of how do you feel, having been through MVC, having been through college and now part of the workforce, that you feel that you are so prepared because of MVC?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you, Devin, and to the MVC team for welcoming me back. I'm excited to get to talk to you parents and students who are connecting with us. We're excited to just have a conversation about why Monte Vista and what they're doing in Monte Vista that's a little bit different than other institutions. And so talking about opportunity, and organization, when I went to college, I went to a small private Christian school in Los Angeles called Azusa Pacific University. I went there as a business management student. I immediately noticed that I felt that I had more autonomy. I had to learn how to prioritize my time. I had to, like Barry and Sam mentioned, I had to work on my time management. No one was going to hold my hand. I needed to be able to know how I was going to do homework, how I was going to work, because I was working part-time while I was attending school all 4 years, as well as, do other activities that I wanted to be involved in college. And so being able to have a sense of ownership, like I said, autonomy of your own responsibilities, you were already doing a lot of those things in high school at Monte Vista, whether it was starting to work with your counselor and pick your classes on what do you think you want to do? Do you want to take an AP class? Why do you want to take an AP class? What activities do you want to get involved in? All the way to the point of, what extracurriculars were you're gonna choose to really stand out into just be as competitive as possible. And so I really felt completely different in regards to all my other classmates. Felt like I had a little bit of a competitive advantage going in. I was a little bit more prepared than other students.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Danny, how about you? What are some of the things that, whether it's those first moments that you experienced in college where you felt like, oh, actually, I've got this, or now even as part of the workforce, and that's just kind of continued to build on those skills that you really started to develop and refine at MVC? What stands out for you?
Yeah, definitely. I agreed with Andy in the fact that the organizational skills that I learned from MVC really carried over into college and then work life. And then piggybacking on what Ms. Alumni said earlier, where you guys really tailored towards our skills and our passions, I ended up getting a job in college that was not only going to help pay for things because you're on your own and you're trying to become an adult, but it was a job that was also going to help with my future career. And I think because Monte Vista helped build those skills for me, I was then able to become passionate about the job that I had and the work that I was doing in school. So instead of getting a part-time job in retail, I was able to actually start in the medical field because I knew that that was something I was passionate about because that was established in me at Monte Vista. And so with organization as well, like I still color code my planners the way that I learned in 7th grade at Monte Vista. and I still use a whiteboard to do out my schedule like I did at Monte Vista. And I think that those skills are invaluable.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Andy, you reacted to that as soon as you heard color coding notebooks and schedules. Tell us why.
Because when I was in middle school and high school, but I saw it more prevalent in high school because there was a little bit of a rebellious Andy in middle school. In high school, I got a teacher, Mr. Tremontosi, would tell me, Andy, I think you have the right idea of how you're going to do your process of like scheduling, but your execution is not the best. And so I was like, okay. So I took that feedback, and he's like, I recommend color coding. And so I would highlight on my planner, like different classes and coursework and, deadlines that I needed to do. When I got to college, I did the same thing on my computer. I would highlight my notes. I was a visual learner. And now that I'm in, recruiting in a tech company, I color code all my calendars and interviews that I have, meetings I have to go, deadlines that I have, deliverables that I need to get done. And it's all by priority. And so when Danny says that, we were classmates, and I would see her, she was that organized girl that was always like walking around with her planner and it was all color coded. I wanted to be like that, but I just never, I guess I didn't jump on it quick enough. And then once I did, it's helped me throughout, the 3 stages of life that I've been through so far: high school, college, and now work. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Susie, I want you to come back in the conversation here, because one of the things that has been touched on, and you touched on it as well at the top of the webcast, is talking about, the difference between just memorizing content for the sake of regurgitating it on an exam and then forgetting it by the time you leave the classroom. But that has long standing been a way to get an A in a class in order to get into a particular college. But going back to International Baccalaureate, inquiry-based learning. And so I'd love to know, for those parents that might be looking at this and go, well, this sounds great, but I guess one, if my child is not traditionally a high academic performer, is something like an IB school, Monte Vista Christian, is it truly IB for all?
Yeah, that's a great question, Devin. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a valid question too. We do have standards and learning objectives, and there's important information that we need our students to know that prepares them for their post-secondary life. So that's that part of them being informed, but that comes in different forms other than just memorizing. And so instead of just this concept of let's cover all of this information in this short amount of time, we need our students to be able to think critically. So we want them to have conceptual understanding. So that might mean we dive deeper into some concepts so that they have a deeper understanding of that concept, so that they can then apply their understanding to unfamiliar content and unfamiliar situations. So it's just a different way of looking at what we think learning means. So we don't think learning necessarily means that they have to be great memorizers and they have to cover so much prescriptive content. Yes, they need to cover content, and it is important for them to be informed and to have those that key information. But we want them to think critically, to be able to look at something so that when they come across an unfamiliar situation, they have the skills they need to find the resources for that, to think critically about that, right? To make those ethical kinds of decisions, to look with integrity at things. So that's really what we're doing in the classroom. So that to me still translates to that grading currency that you mentioned. Can they still get that A or that B? It does translate to that, because we're teaching them to be thinkers, right? And to think critically about information. So yeah, I think it is for all students, because all students have the potential to learn. And I also think there's safety in that. When you're talking about learning concepts and thinking critically, you have an opportunity to try things and fail. There's risk taking, there's courage involved. And I think that develops a student as a learner to a much greater degree than any memorization of facts could ever do.
Yeah, here with that especially. One of the things that I find truly fascinating and truly rewarding about being part of the MVC learning community and the learning experience is we get opportunities like this to not only showcase and hear the voice from current students, but really one of the things that I think is unique about MVC is there are a lot of alumni. Andy and Danny are both great examples of that continue to stay connected to the school, to specific teachers. Tracy, what do you think it is about MVC and that process of being part of our learning community that does connect and maintain these relationships with these young adults even after graduation?
Yeah, I think that is a great example of just the relationships that are built here on campus, is that many of them do carry on past high school. And I'm so thankful for that, because we spend so much time with these students, and then to just see them leave is always so hard each year, and exciting. But also, I think it's just the class size, for one thing, which gives us an opportunity to build relationships with the students in the classrooms, the teachers the opportunity to do that. I think it's the activities that we have on campus that allow that the teachers are a part of, that the faculty and staff are a part of these, whether it's homecoming or clubs. We have teachers overseeing